I'm Joanne Leedom-Ackerman, Vice President Emeritus of PEN International. 10 years ago, essayist, poet, activist, and PEN member Liu Xiaobo was the first Chinese citizen to win the Nobel Prize for Peace. Liu envisioned and worked towards a peaceful and democratic pathway for China. Beginning with the protest in Tiananmen Square in 1989, and through the subsequent decades, he spoke out and wrote and gathered people and ideas in support of a China where individual freedom was valued and protected. In 2008, he and others drafted Charter 08, which set out this democratic vision. He and others gathered hundreds and then thousands of signatures from Chinese citizens who endorsed the vision. Charter 08 did not call for an overthrow of the government, so much as a transformation of the way the government related to its citizens in a transition to a democratic society that would include freedom of expression and assembly. Liu Xiaobo has been called the Nelson Mandela or the Václav Havel of China because of his ideas, his activism, and his leadership. Like Havel, Liu was committed to nonviolent action as a means of achieving change, and he was an inspired writer. Liu Xiaobo was the writer the Chinese government feared the most, and therefore arrested. Liu was charged as an enemy of the state for, quote, incitement of subverting state power because of his ideas, his writing, and his participation in the drafting and circulating of Charter 08. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison. He was the only recipient of the Nobel Prize who was in prison at the time and not allowed to attend the ceremony. Only an empty chair represented him. His wife, Liu Xi, was not allowed to attend either. Liu Xiaobo died in custody July 13, 2017. After his death, writers around the world who knew him began to write about him, his work, about China and the path of liberalism and democratic aspirations. This year, the journey of Liu Xiaobo from dark horse to Nobel laureate was published. It contains more than 75 of these essays, probably the largest gathering of writing from China's democratic activists. It is both a memoir and a tribute to Liu Xiaobo and a study of China's democracy movement. China's democracy movement and Liu Xiaobo's legacy still inspire those inside and outside of China. From the mainland to Xinjiang, to Tibet, to Hong Kong, and to neighboring countries engaged in the struggle for political reform and an end to authoritarian rule. Some have said that because of China's ascendancy in the last decade, the legacy of Liu Xiaobo has been reduced to nothing. But a longer view of history shows that the same was said of those visionaries and martyrs for free societies in Eastern Europe and South Africa. Societies move forward and are changed by ideas, by leaders, and ultimately by their citizens. Liu Xiaobo did not aspire to personal power, but those in power came to fear him because he understood how to move ideas into action. As individuals, one by one, be they writers, lawyers, academics, or others, are put into prison and taken out of the discourse, those in power attempt to maintain their control. That is why it is important to keep an eye not only on the monolith of governments and regimes, but to protect the individuals who both hold the powerful to account. Liu Xiaobo declared, "Freedom of expression is the foundation of human rights, the source of humanity, and the mother of truth." Liu Xiaobo insisted that to transition to a state where one wanted to live, one needed to have citizens who represented those values, even in the struggle. I'd like to read from his final statement to the judge who sentenced him. Quote, "Now I have been once again shoved into the dock by the enemy mentality of the regime. But I still want to say to this regime, which is depriving me of my freedom, that I stand by the convictions I have no enemies and no hatred. Hatred can rot away at a person's intelligence and conscience. Enemy mentality will poison the spirit of a nation, incite cruel mortal struggles, destroy a society's tolerance and humanity, and hinder a nation's progress towards freedom and democracy. That is why I hope to be able to transcend my personal experiences as I look upon our nation's development and social change, to counter the regime's hostility with utmost goodwill and to dispel hatred with love," unquote. After Liu Xiaobo's death, a colleague who had known and worked with him for decades was asked if he thought Xiaobo would have changed his statement had he known his end. His friend said no, that his final statement and sentiment that I have no enemies, no hatred, was at the heart of who Liu Xiaobo was. Now, Liu Xiaobo's beloved wife, Liu Shi, who is herself a poet, will read one of his poems written to her, Van Gogh and You, addressed to little Liu. Thank you.
梵高与你，给小霞。你的字总让我自卑，信中的绝望难以辨认，而笔画却趋于完美。梵高的向日葵长在你握笔磨出的厚茧上。那把空椅子很珍贵，不是你读书写信的地方。换一个姿势，就是换一种记忆。你平静地面对节律，一个人欣赏梵高的画，每天都用心跳行走，总以为再迈过一步就是尽头。撞墙的预感引导着你，在爱的反面，在死的另一面，梵高的播种者毁于刚刚萌芽的种子。对于你，房间等同于天堂，从外面回家似乎就得到了拯救。在无人哀悼亡灵的时刻，每个人都成为了歌手，唯有你保持沉默，守着那把空椅子。血腥的记忆勒住咽喉，词是咸的，声音是黑色的，全天候的跟踪和大脑中的监视器也抢不走你的笔和画中的那场大雪。梵高割下的耳朵在飞翔，为你寻找一种色彩。一只沾满泥巴的农鞋在笨拙地行走，带你去耶路撒冷的哭墙。